Greetings! The title of this video does explain what we're going to be talking about today. Me and the other cast members have noticed that the newer stargazers are confused about most things within the Celestial Void content that we put out. So I'm here to dive into the current cast of shown characters and an overview of the series as a whole. To start off, I will be briefly explaining, or at least summarizing, what the series is about, and I'll do a proper explanation of it another time. It was only fully registered that no one was properly understanding the series until I started deciding, hey, I'm going to do character explained videos because nobody actually understood the characters. So that's why this video has come out first and not a story explained thing. I haven't asked questions about that yet. The Celestial Void started as a series about 6 daycare attendants' lives, struggles, and was just overall a story of chasing freedom. Later on, the Glamrocks were introduced. Even though they were just as important, they were treated as a side plot since everyone's attentions were more on the Voids, who are the daycare attendants, because they were introduced to us first. Then the reboot happened, and the plot expanded a bit. We were granted more screen times for the Glamrocks, and other characters such as Glitchtrap and Vanessa have shown up more than they did in the old story, which is good because they were just as important as well the whole time. The old lore and new lore share the same thing, where it's about the daycare attendants and the Glamrocks' lives, struggles, and chases for freedom, still in hopes to get out of the Pizzaplex and away from Vanessa. This video isn't about any of the backstory though, as I did mention at the start that this was not a story explained, and the video tells you it's a character explained. This is about Eclipse, or as their blueprints and online files say, Solare Eclipse. I will be both talking about old lore and new lore Eclipse in this video. To start off with, it would just be easier to talk about old lore. So within old lore, Eclipse was shown to be more independent and rebellious, with a need to keep their sibling Lunar Eclipse safe. More detail on Luna for when it's their turn for one of these videos. Solare Eclipse was never given the time to develop an opinion on themselves, and by the time it was just pointless in their mind to have one. Their system contained multiple EXEs and viruses that they themselves were different Eclipse personas to contain the soul of Isaiah's stars within Eclipse and to keep the spirit of them dormant inside the body. Eclipse was specifically programmed to be protective. If it was meant to be a personality trait, they didn't take it as that. They took it as a chore. And at the start of the series, they didn't actually care for Luna. It was just a part of the code. Luna didn't care for Eclipse, just to clear that. They only acted like they cared about each other to avoid getting decommissioned by Vanessa. It was only around the middle of Season 1 in the old lore that Eclipse started to actually care for everyone around them. And due to this starting to care, Eclipse semi-failed to put viruses on the other attendants. They did, however, manage to attach secondary trackers to them all, which is how Vanessa found them at the start of Season 2 in the forest. And now here's a fun fact that I get to share, because Solare said that I could. Eclipse had more antagonist vibes in the old series, and was going to turn evil at some point within the old lore. It was never further planned as the series got rebooted before we could get to that plot point, so we don't know if they would have stayed evil or had a redemption arc. Personally, I would have hoped that they stayed evil. It would have been so funny. Within the new lore, however, Eclipse has been portrayed as less independent and less rebellious, but they are still Eclipse's main character traits. They have a slightly more thought-out view of themselves, and instead of not thinking about themselves at all, they are unsure of themselves and will actually contemplate the value of their own life and others within specific situations. This version of Eclipse does not have multiple EXEs, viruses, whatever they were, but instead it's just one singular, very strong firewall that was built by Vanessa herself to keep Isaiah and Eclipse separated, so they can no longer communicate with each other. Oh, and if you somehow couldn't get it from the videos that got put out, Eclipse works for Vanessa. Eclipse kind of did in the old lore as well, but it's more shown here that they worked for Vanessa. Eclipse is able to act more connected to themselves with their actions and emotions due to their core and Isaiah's soul being more balanced due to the reset, which barely affected the bond between Isaiah and Eclipse, despite them not being able to interact anymore. Eclipse is also more connected to the old timeline than the other voids in Glamrocks are, which causes some of the actions they do to have flashback consequences to the old timeline's versions of situations. When this happens, Eclipse actively chooses options that don't give them these flashbacks, without properly investigating or understanding them, leaving them oblivious to any specific event's outcomes after choosing the mystery option. A side effect of the memories, however, is Eclipse, while still remaining content with their life, acts paranoid and jumpy about a few things. When I say that Eclipse is content with their current life, I mean it. Despite Vanessa being there, they have their daughter back, they are surrounded by friends and family, and is developing the feeling of love and understanding what it feels like. Speaking of this, Solar Eclipse can now experience emotions they previously had to express artificially, such as love and actual care, which is what I was just talking about with the love thing. At this current moment in the series, after running out of Vanessa's lab with their daughter, Dawn, Eclipse is feeling both relief and scared. They are relieved that their daughter is now back with them. They can hold and talk to her again after way too long apart, but also scared for how the other attendants will respond to the knowledge of this secret child of Eclipse's. There are some things that were kept from the old lore to the new lore, one of which being Eclipse having a part of Void's soul. In the old lore, Eclipse found it in a tube outside of Afton's lab on the moon. Those videos are technically no longer canon. But in the new lore, that soul was dormant until reawakened within the water Charlie, BlackHole's daughter, disappeared into within the video A Daughter for a Daughter. Yes, I was allowed to talk about that bit. Another thing that was passed into the new lore was Eclipse's knowledge of specific situations and what to do or how to fix them. Eclipse remained fully knowledgeable of how to repair daycare attendants, and a lot of how they were built and hidden details, such as the stomach compartments. The only thing about the attendants that they forgot was about the bodies hidden inside. There were times when something was off with all of them, but it never bothered Eclipse enough to actually check inside. This is all I got, actually. This is all I asked questions for. Next video like this might either be the story explained or another character explained. If you have any further questions, if you're in the Discord, we have a questions chat where you can write that in. Or you can ask your questions in the comments and see if you get an answer. Have a good day, evening, or night. Bye!